You can't go to your uncle's funeral because no one can cover your shift. Sorry in advance. This is a long story. TW. Death. Cancer. So back in earlier COVID times I landed a job at a family-owned Italian restaurant. I was a cashier, but also did the same duties as a server. This job was okay. The pay was $9 an hour and the foot traffic was practically non-existent. Majority of my shifts were spent on my phone sitting at a table with the two cooks, waiting for someone to walk in or for an order to pop up on the iPad. Well, in early September, my uncle passed away after being stuck in a rehab facility for a year or so. Suffered a stroke and his health fluctuated. Luckily, two of my tias and a tio were able to see him before he really took a turn for the worse. I got a call from one of the tias that saw him and she told me that he had passed away. I tried to collect myself because it had been a couple of years since I had last seen him. And he promised me back when I graduated that he and I would go to a restaurant in town to celebrate. I asked my tia to update me as to when the services would be so I could let my job know. This happened after my last grandparent died. My mom got diagnosed with cancer, and she lost half of her hearing overnight randomly, all within a 4-month span, only to suffer another loss 2 weeks later. Another tia. Mom is doing better now. Still in remission thankfully, but still struggles with her hearing. So a couple of days goes by and my manager keeps on asking if I have any updates. So I kept calling my tia for info so my boss would get off my case. I felt horrible because she lost her brother and I kept asking for updates. She tells me the day. I thank her and tell her I'll see her then. I relay the information to my manager and I'm immediately told, "You can't miss that day. You'd have no coverage." And I was taken aback. Because I've never had a job tell me that I couldn't go to a funeral because they were short-staffed. I became angry and said, "There is nothing stopping me from going. Especially not this job." He then brought his pregnant wife into it. And she immediately took his side and said, "Hey, everyone has their issues and struggles. Your coworkers do. I do. And I know that you do too. But you need to learn to shove all of that down and not take it to the workplace." Okay? I then told her, "If you were going through every single thing I've gone through the past few months while being pregnant, you'd be a crying mess, so I don't want to hear it." She ended the conversation with, "I'm sorry for your loss. But you can't miss work." So I finished half of my closing duties. Last thing I did was count all the money from the register. Write all the info needed on the envelope. Show it to the security camera. That was required. Grab my stuff. Walk out and drive off. Not even 2 minutes later, the wife calls me but I ignore the call and block her number. Next day rolls around and I was supposed to be in at 11 a.m. and I was woken up by pounding on my door. And my mom saying, "You're supposed to be at work. What's going on?" Turns out they called my mom and told her I didn't show up and I said, "I quit." Told her the reason why I did. And she looked at me as if I was being unreasonable. But I stood my ground, woman shrugging, light skin tone. In the end the restaurant is now an empty building due to lack of business, more than likely tears of joy. I am so sick of stories from people being forced to work and actually going into work as if they had no agency in their lives. Well done. This would be better in our anti-work. It's not really malicious compliance. Quitting isn't malicious compliance, it's just quitting. Our anti-work is maybe a better sub for this, but good for you and sorry for your loss. Oh, I don't know. Seems like compliance and malicious to me. Just not the way they expected. But you need to learn to shove all of that down and not take it to the workplace. Okay? He complied and didn't take it to the workplace by the simple expedient and compliance of not taking himself to the workplace. Wow, even your mom took their side. Wow, that's cold. Let me guess, the uncle wasn't her relative. This country will one day be deeply, deeply submerged in the ocean. My fear is that I may get to a point where I am glad to see that day. I had a director once refuse to excuse me from our location's big annual meeting for my fiancé's funeral in another city. He said I had time to go to the funeral but not the luncheon afterward, face with rolling eyes. It didn't matter, our HR person was the one who took attendance and marked it on our records. And she was spitting angry about his reaction. He did get fired eventually. So that's cool. There's no compliance here, just quitting.
What is TIA?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.